Hey guys, Kysen here. On my channel, I've made 3 Valheim 50 tips and tricks videos. There's 150 tips to go through, and today what I've done is whittled it down to the 10 that I think are the most useful. So, of those 150, the 10 that really are the ones that are used most in the game or do most for you in the game, just so you can very quickly look at if you're new to the game, there's these 10, they're probably going to help you out a lot. My most recent 50 tips and tricks videos does have a lot of cool tips in it as well. If you want to check that out, there'll be a card on screen, I should say, right now. But talking about streaming, accidentally, but still, if you want to check out my streams, there'll be a link in the description to that. Streaming Valheim 3 times a week. I have a schedule on that sort of thing on Twitch. Hope to see some of you there for that. I hope this video helps you out in a way. If you have any comments on the video, any things you'd add or remove, whatever, let us know down in the comments. But let's jump into it. So the first tip that I'm going to talk about is actually to do with the cart, something that is probably hands down the most useful thing in the game of Valheim. It helps so much, as you guys know, with gathering resources and doing builds and that sort of thing. But it actually comes to exiting the cart, because for the longest time, whenever I wanted to exit the cart, I'd pull up, look back, and try and there we go eat, and then go away. And that's just a bit of a faff each time, especially when you're using it often, when instead you can just simply dodge roll out. And this one I use all the time, and that's why it is number 1. My next tip refers to marking things on your map, and in particular, marking your death point. So when you die, what I always do is go ahead and put a little marker next to it with like a D or something like that. And the reason I do that, guys, is in case you didn't know, if you die and you go back to try and get your stuff, and then you die again, which can often happen because you're not as geared up as you were the first time, then often then what will happen is you'll get a new skull and bones on the map to mark your newest death point, and the old one will disappear. And so if you haven't marked it, you can lose everything you have, and that's why this is number 2 on the list, because you could be really late game with tons of useful stuff. You could die, lose that death point, and not be able to find it again, and it could cost you hours of trying to look for it and still not be able to find it, lose all your things, and that's horrendous. So marking things on the map in general, you'll see here I mark like everything on my map, pretty busy with doing that, and I think that is definitely something you should do. I highly recommend it, but in particular marking those death points. So next up, it refers to chopping down trees. This one I've put on as one of the most useful tips, because you do need a lot of wood in the game, and any way you can speed that up is definitely worth doing, and this way it works pretty well as long as the tree doesn't fall on you and kill you. As you can see right there, when you chop trees that are near each other, they just pile into each other, knock each other down, and you'll get a lot of wood a lot quicker. So that one had to make the cut, in my opinion, because wood is just such an essential resource throughout this entire game. Next, I want to talk about the rested buff. This is something that it took me a little too long into my Valheim progress to actually start using regularly in my games, but having the better beds, the rugs, having the furniture, and everything else that you could use in order to get an extra rested buff through increasing your comfort level is actually crazy useful when you're actually progressing through this game, whether it's fighting bosses or even just resource gathering or building, because everything needs a lot of stamina. Now on my channel, I do have a full guide on how to get the rested buff and how to maximize your comfort level if you guys are interested, but definitely wanted that one to make my list of the 10 most useful tips. So the next one that had to make the list really was all about raising ground. So obviously when you raise ground, each time you do it, it uses up 4 stone, and if you're making any sort of big wall or platform that's going to be high up in the air, doing this repeatedly is going to use all of your stone very quickly, and stone is not super easy to get. It's a bit of a grind in Valheim. But the tip I should say, where you sort of look at the edge here, and it's just 4 each time to do each subsequent pillar like this. This is going to save you so much time in game when you're doing this, and also allows you to build big walls and platforms, like I say, and so it's going to save you so much time and resources that this one had to make the cut, in my opinion, just because, again, this is something you will use throughout the entirety of your Valheim game. Next up, we have another resource one, and that is whenever you're mining ore, which in this case is, of course, copper, but it works on other things too, like, for example, silver deposits it will work on. But basically, it's about the ore not being all that you can see above ground like this, but actually being able to dig down like a really long way, all the way down until you reach the bottom limit of the world, and still being able to find that ore, whether it's copper, silver, whatever, underneath it. And again, this comes down to just getting the extra resources in the game, as the resources can be a bit of a grind. Finding a copper deposit isn't always the easiest thing, and you won't get much from the surface. You'll actually get 2 to 3 times more by digging down underneath it. So that's definitely something useful to consider. And just as a little bonus tip, you can also dig underneath these copper deposits and make yourself an underground base if you wish. The next tip refers to Bonemass, who in my opinion is the most difficult boss relative to your stage of the game when you first fight him, and that is around the Bonemass altar. Make sure you do what I've done here and hoe up a load of land so that you're not in the water. This means that leeches will not be able to get you, and you won't have to swim, which is just a lot easier because then it won't affect your rested or your stamina, I should say, and you'll be able to fight him a lot better, and you'll be able to fight him from this sort of land here here where you can maneuver more quickly, and it definitely for me made my battle against him a lot easier. As a bonus Bonemass tip, I highly recommend having a mob-proof area like this. So we have to jump up to get onto this ladder, which means that none of the other mobs will be able to chase us up here. If you're fighting Bonemass on the lower levels of the walkways going up here, he will be able to get you, so do be careful with that. But then up here, you'll see I've got a little safe house where Bonemass will not be able to get us, and also we've got a little portal here to go back to our base. This means we can escape and go and rest up or eat or do whatever we need to do if we get into trouble against Bonemass, and it also means if we die, we can teleport straight back to the location to hopefully recover our things as quickly as possible. So my next tip makes the list because for the amount of effort, which is incredibly minimal, the reward is incredibly big, especially at the stage of the game when you've just got to the swamp, and that is to make a Surtling farm. Now the reason I say this is because you will just get a ton of coal and Surtling cores as well as the Surtling trophies completely free. You can see I've made a little tree house up there. Again, I have a full video tutorial of this on my channel if you're interested, but you can kind of see exactly what you need to do here, and this will obviously save you a ton of wood so that you can do all your smelting and stuff very easily with all the coal that you're going to get here. Plus you have all the Surtling cores to make portals all over your world, which in itself is hugely useful, and obviously you can use them to make a lot of smelters and charcoal kilns up, which again will be quite useful, although of course you might not need the charcoal kiln after this, so yeah, make the Surtling farm, right? And the Surtling trophies themselves are also useful because you can use them as a permanent light source in your base by putting them onto item frames. Now, this isn't as bright as having fire, but at least it is something that's permanent and doesn't have to be, keep replacing, like for example the resin in those torches. Exploration is a big part of the game in Valheim, and so this next tip refers to that. I thought it was important that at least one exploration tip made this list, and that is to have a spare portal at your base at all times. You see here, this one here is just called X and is unconnected. Now what that means is when I go exploring, all I need to do is take the materials with me in order to make one portal, and I can teleport back. So I could go really, really far out on a boat and get home instantly, and then of course as well return to whatever place that I go to when I'm out on my exploration journey. And that is why this tip I thought had to make the list. And whenever you make a portal away from your base, be sure to protect it like you can see I've done here, and this will make sure that the mobs are not going to destroy it while you're gone. There's nothing worse than teleporting far, far away from your base and setting up a portal there, and then later on the portal has been destroyed and you have to get a boat back there or whatever to recover your things. It's a bit of a trek, so do make sure you protect them. Next up we have a sailing tip, and this one is something that it took me a while to realize in game, but it's kind of tempting when you first start sailing in Valheim to think that having the mast down means that you're going to go as fast as you possibly can. However, when you see on the right hand side here the wind is grey and it is blowing against you, this is actually going to slow you down. You can see I've pretty much like all but stopped right now on my boat. So if I press S twice to get that sail down, you'll see I am now paddling. We've got the paddle animation there, and you can see it in here being paddled, and I'm actually now going faster. Now it's not fast, right? It's not fast at all, but let's get with the winds against us again. It's actually slightly with us now, but yeah, it's still gonna be a lot quicker than if you have the sail all the way down. So you need to ensure that you're not in a position where you've got the sail entirely down when you are trying to sail against the wind in Valheim. So as a bonus 11th tip, guys, you can get 50 more tips by watching the video on screen right now. And if you think I missed anything out today, do let me know down in the video comments if anything you change or whatever for your tips. The dad jokes will be back in the next video. I just kind of wanted to do a different format for this particular video, but don't worry, they will be back. Apologies not in today, but I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope to see you on my Twitch, link in the description, and thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one.